What's going on, guys? Thanks for joining us. This is the Edge DFS. My name is Tyson Smith. I'm joined by Ellie Hernandez. We're talking showdown, Ravens versus Titans. It's a little early. We had a long day yesterday. We did 3 shows. We're about to do 3 shows again today. What's going on, man? How are you?
I'm doing well despite what my face might look like right now. I promise you, this is the camera, not me being hungover, not me being tired or worn out from yesterday.
Maybe it's a combination of all 3.
Yeah, it probably is. Yeah. How are you doing, dude?
Not bad, man. Ronald Jones really fucked things up for everybody last night. I don't know how it's possible that someone gets injured in pregame warm-ups and not a single soul, whether it's reporters, whether it's just dudes walking around on the sideline, can't tweet that information out. It's absolutely insane, considering he's 50+% owned. And look, most of the people watching that game last night had some sort of money involved with that game. If the NFL doesn't realize that and isn't a little bit more stricter on this kind of shit, it's gonna hurt the overall product. Don't you agree?
Yeah, and like a company like Draftkings, they're public now, so this hurts them as a business. So I think that they start trying to apply some pressure on the NFL as well, because I saw something on Twitter about it. That's one reason why sports betting will always have an edge over daily fantasy, is because I just need to pick a fucking winner. I don't need to sit there and try and guess if this dude's going to be active for a game. It's so much straightforward, and you're not betting against the field. So I think that's going to damage the DFS product long term if we can't get some kind of middle ground there. But
yeah, I mean, look, Ronald Jones being inactive or hurt or questionable, whatever, in the beginning of that game it's not going to move the line much. It's not going to change the outcome of the game much.
Right.
But for us fantasy players, it literally changes everything. I cashed in, I think, 75+% of my lineups for that particular game, and I had 95% Ronald Jones.
Yeah,
like I just needed I needed anything from him, and it would have been a really good night. Instead, just move on to the next night. But a little bit frustrating, don't you agree? Putting in all that time and effort, and some dude just injures his quad in the beginning of the game, and it's over. It's kind of frustrating.
Yeah, and I think an important thing to note is I also went positive last night given my exposure to Ronald Jones. So I was cashing with big fat zeros from him. The reason why is because we played Taylor Swift or the Heineke man in all of our lineups, and he was at 22-25% owned. I mean, that kind of leverage alone was able to keep me from losing my ass on a zero. So, I think that's something that we're going to get into a little bit on this next game here, because we're already seeing some pretty disparage ownership trends here. So I'm kind of excited for today. I think we might be able to get our foot back down in the ground, and I don't even know what that means, what I just said, to be honest with you, but I think we're going to be able to get back on track here.
So the first game yesterday profited. The second game, not so much. That game did not turn out my way, and still profited last night, even with some Rob Gronkowski and some Ronald Jones zero. So let us know how you guys did in the chat from yesterday. We're gonna just jump right into this. Grind fam, who should my captain be? We'll hit you up with that in a minute here. We're gonna do our full breakdown, our fades, our captain choices. Feel free to stay tuned, and we'll get to that as soon as possible here. My dog is dreaming in the background. Stormy, you okay, baby?
Hey, first out of 11:49. What was your lineup?
Nice, man. Good job. That's awesome.
And just to be clear, did we help you, or did you just go opposite of our picks and that's what won? So we are interested in that information, right? This is a growing and a learning opportunity for all of us. Yeah, absolutely. Did you have you went rogue? There you go. I don't know what that means on a showdown. Like you must have been crazy. Did you put Heineke at captain? That must have been it.
Yeah, that's usually the Heineke at captain. I mean, dude, he was $6,000.
Yeah, but
I mean, like, even if he didn't have that rushing touchdown, still would have got you there.
Bro, so, I was too scared. You were right on yesterday. We should have just fucking done it.
Yeah. The JD McKissick, like, the thing that really sucks is, like, we nailed it we nailed that. And, like, I would have not been that upset if, like, everyone just sucked. But like that one little element just completely screwed everything. All right, so let's move on. Let's have a short memory when it comes to that. I'm not going to harp on this anymore. Let's get right into this matchup. The Ravens visiting the Titans. Baltimore's the 5 seed. Titans are the 4 seed. Baltimore is actually they're actually favored in this game slightly. This is a pretty close matchup overall, but on the road they're favored. They're minus 192 odds, 3.5 spread with a 54 total. And you look at the ownership there, is pretty damn close. Let's check out some of these lineups here. This is looks like the full day slate here. Brady captain, Evans, Godwin, suck up Heineke, Cam Sims. Yep, that'll 100%. Do it.
Yeah, that Cam Sims choice was a great pick. That was one thing to keep in mind right? I don't think we mentioned this on the show, but these random ass receivers are probably going to have better chemistry with random quarterbacks have better chemistry with the deep wide receivers. So
yeah,
great call on that. Well done.
All right, so what jumps out to you here? I mean, this total is nice. I really like this total. Typically, for a Baltimore game, we're not really looking at seeing these totals. We're more, 45 to 48. This seems pretty high to me. Can they hit this? Can they hit the over, or do you think this is going to end up being the under?
No, this is going to hit the over. We'll look at. Actually, do you have in Fantasy Cruncher, does it give you the scores of the past games for the teams? Because Tennessee's last 4 games have all hit the over, and we're talking 64-point totals, 70-point totals. It's been pretty obscene.
So last week, Houston, that was 79 points. We have 54-point total, a 71. There's a lot of points being scored here.
Yeah, I actually, I'm probably going to just straight bet the over here too, just while we're on it. I did a little bit, I made a little bit of money live betting as well last night. So I think we'll continue that trend here today.
So why is that? Why are these Tennessee games going over? I mean, you got one of the best ground and pound running backs we've seen in a long time. They're running the clock down. Why are these games hitting the over so much with Tennessee? Is it their defense just absolutely sucks ass? What's going on?
Yeah, so for fear of oversimplifying, an NFL job, I will say that, my analysis says that it really is the Tennessee defense. They just are not good against the pass this year. It is not good at all. So you can run the ball there with Derrick Henry, but when he's rushing for 200 yards and 3 touchdowns, it probably means the other team's got to throw the ball to stay in the game. So that's kind of what I've been noticing a lot here, which is interesting because Baltimore's not necessarily a pass team, right? They want to run the ball. But again, I don't think it really matters. I do think Baltimore has the edge in this. I do think they win this game. Remember, they've already played this year. And we've said it all season long, especially in the division rivalry games. It's really difficult to beat a team twice in the same year.
Yeah. I mean, look, Tennessee is it's a tough team. They have such high upside, It's just so difficult to actually figure out what team is going to show up. You know what I mean? Yeah,
man. We're pretty upset about that too.
Andrew, we spent the beginning of the show it was a therapy session talking about how well we did despite all those zeros and the Gronkowski zeros. I had one lineup out of 45 that did not have a zero in it. And that lineup was in the top 100. It's so sad.
No, the thing that sucks so much about NFL too, when you have those random ass late scratches or injuries, is you have to wait so much longer. NBA, if you have a late scratch, you can just go to the next fucking slate that night or play the next day, right? But it just hurts a little bit more in NFL, especially Leonard Fournette going off too, right? I mean,
if 10% owned in some of these times.
Yeah, I mean, God damn it. Anyways.
All right, so let's move over to injuries. We actually have some news here. The inactives just came out. Willie Snead was questionable with an ankle. He is active. Mark Ingram seems to be a healthy scratch. That's what it's seeming like to me. I haven't heard any other news. To me, that makes it so much easier. I was already leaning heavily towards the running backs here, specifically one guy that we'll get into. But with Mark Ingram inactive, what does that do for you? That's just solidifies what you were already thinking, correct? Tell me who gets a boost here.
I don't think it's going to be any surprise to anybody who's watched our other shows throughout the year on the Ravens. That just makes Gus Edwards just such a better play to me. Like I said, I understand the Titans defense sucks against the pass, but the the Ravens want to run the ball. They want to keep the ball out of Derrick Henry's hands. So I think that they're going to take advantage of the fact that they got Gus, JK, and Lamar and just eat time off the clock. And I think having Mark Ingram out, it really solidifies the point that they're trying to phase him out of the offense. It was hinted at like earlier in the season, and really that's what triggered my focus on Gus Edwards. So I think, and given his current projection, hopefully this we get an update before lock. But given his current projection for ownership, it just doesn't make sense not to jam him in.
So to go back to Grind Fam here, who should my captain be? Look, depending on your contest selection, is one thing, but one thing to consider for a early showdown slate like this is there's not a lot of large contests. Similar to what we saw yesterday in the morning, you're talking probably 25,000 entries is your largest contest in this particular showdown slate. So we don't need to really get too crazy at captain. You can almost consider this like a single entry almost when it comes to deciding your captain. I don't think we need to go down crazy like we would usually. Like typically I would be like, if it's 100,000 plus entries, I would consider Gus Edwards. I would consider more Hollywood Brown, that kind of a thing for those bigger contests. Today, I think you can really just concentrate on the top guys. You can concentrate on Lamar, JK, AJ Brown, that kind of thing. You don't have to get too crazy different. Any advice there, Ellie, from that aspect?
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm not going to lie to you. I do think Gus Edwards makes for an interesting captain play just because he's so damn cheap. And if you want to jam in all the studs, I think he allows you to do that. And given his projected ownership, I really don't anticipate him being more than 2 to 3% owned in the captain spot. So in deeper, and I emphasize the deeper GPPs, I think he's definitely viable. So other than that, I think Lamar Jackson's the clear one, Derrick Henry 2, and then probably Tannehill for me.
I think when it comes to roster construction, I'm actually excited to build a Lamar, J.K. Dobbins, Gus Edwards lineup.
Rushing onslaught, right?
Really excited to build that. Run it back with passing attack on the other side. Fade Henry potentially in one of your lineups or in a few of your lineups. That's a good roster construction option for today, just to be safe. So let's move over to our breakdown here. Let's get right into it. All right. So we're going to start you guys out with the Captain Crunch segment here, where we're going to show you 250 lineups per captain crunched out, and these are sort of the results. So you see the ownership there on the left. These are sorted by high projected points based on the captain. So all this information, this is a good, safe way to kind of visualize where the slate is as far as pricing, captain, projection, things like that. Obviously, Lamar Jackson is going to be one of the highest duped captains, but we're still talking, like I said, you're still talking about 3 or 4 dupes potentially with the chalkiest lineup from these guys. That's why it's really important to consider, look, I don't have to be too crazy different in this case, in this particular slate, unless you have a really good take on something. So Ellie, when you're looking at these numbers here, what jumps out to you? To me, looks like Mark Andrews is a really good option there when it comes to projected points, when it comes to ownership. He has a relatively decent ceiling. So you're right there. And the dupes are relatively low. What else jumps out to you here?
Yeah, I think it's not too shocking here, but Lamar Jackson being at the high projected points, and he has the lowest projected points, or the highest low projected points lineup. Yeah. We got to come up with a better way to say that. But top ceiling, top floor, like straight across the board, I think he's going to be he's going to be the captain in all your cash lineups, which we'll build together because, of course, I drunk entered a bunch of cash as well. And just to be clear, guys, that's where I'm making my most money. Some of these people are just entering some god awful lineups, and I do think there is money to be made. We can play GPP all day, but you're looking at very low win odds. Use the 3, 5, and 7-man contest to kind of to hedge your bets and just to keep your bankroll consistent, so you're not depositing after you lose $20 in a GPP. But anyways, that's what I've been doing.
Well, let me add to that point, because look. Our goal when we're entering GPPs is to get first place. Our goal is not to min cash. So more often than not, you're just going to lose. That's just how it is. The best players, most of the time, they're going to lose. But they figure out ways to manage their bankroll when it comes to actually, like, they play cash. They'll play cash on these 3, 5-man lineups. One piece of advice, too, is to stay under the $3 mark in those contests. because you're not going against the Sharks, who are just literally mass entering. They can't enter anything below that price target area. So consider going like 10, 15, $3 ones or $2 ones, whatever it is. That'll be a good way to then hedge with your tournament choices there. And maybe you don't need to go Lamar Jackson in your tournaments just in case, that kind of a thing. Right. Anything else to add to that? And also, just talk about anything else here when it comes to this Captain Crunch.
Yeah. So again, I think deeper GPPs. I'm really interested, or not even deeper GPPs, but just in GPP, I am looking at Mark Andrews at captain. He should be one of the chalkiest players on the main slate. So I'm curious as to how that's going to transition into his ownership on this particular slate. Yeah. But again, I do want some pieces of this passing game against a shitty Titans defense, and I think Mark Andrews is going to have kind of the more consistent production. Marquis Brown is also very interesting with that high upside type of build. So I do think that he's interesting as well. But other than that, I think it seems pretty straightforward. Like guys like J.K. Dobbins are in play, Corey Davis, A.J. Brown. I think you need to keep it in really tight between Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry, Tannehill for the captain spots, unless you're really confident in somebody else. Just because they're probably going to have the highest floor out of any of these guys.
So when it comes to Showdown, obviously we throw a lot of rules out. When I don't set a ton of rules myself. There's certain times I do, but negatively correlated plays sometimes are fine with Showdown when it comes to a 1-game slate. Typically speaking, we're not going to play Ryan Tannehill and Derrick Henry. I know sometimes that plays off on a main slate, but for Showdown, there's an absolute situation where you can get Henry and a passing onslaught as well. So when it comes to your Titans builds, first of all, are you going to go any 4-2s? Are you mainly going to stick with a 3-3 at most with the Titans? And how are you handling like the negatively correlated plays, like putting A.J. Brown and Corey Davis along with Derrick Henry, like that kind of thing? Are you opposed to doing that?
No, I'm not. I think this is going to be a fun slate because of that reason. I don't think correlation is going to matter on this game at all, simply because the total is high enough that the points are going to be spread out one way or another, and I'm so confident that it's going to hit the over that I'm not too worried about some of these random ass one-offs. And if you wanted to stack Brown, Davis, and Derrick Henry, that's fine. I just don't think you're going to have the money to do it. But I think it's definitely in play if you want to run that.
So let's get right into our breakdown here. Opening up Fantasy Cruncher here. Lamar Jackson is at 12K. Ryan Tannehill's at 10.4K. So look, there's not a situation where I would ever fade Lamar Jackson. He's going to be in every single one of my lineups. If I was doing 1,000 lineups, he'd be in 1,000. If I was doing one lineup, he'd be in that one lineup. He's in every lineup. The question here is, can we get different by fading Tannehill in some of our lineups? You're talking about Tannehill potentially being, 40, 50% owned. Can you get enough leverage on by fading Tannehill? And is there any chance that he's not in the optimal? Me personally, I think the chances of him being in the optimal is like 90%, in my opinion. I think he's gonna make it. So we don't have to overthink things, right?
I wouldn't overthink it. No. I think it'll be interesting once we get into the build to see what we can do without having him there. But we'll see. I just don't know if he's. Look, if fucking Taylor Swift isn't the optimal and one of the optimal captain choices, I really don't see how Ryan Tannehill doesn't get there. I get it that the pricing is entirely different, but Tannehill does have the rushing upside. And again, this is a 54-point total. Unless you think Derrick Henry is going to rush for 350 yards and if they're at a 2017 total in 4 touchdowns, somebody's got to pick up that additional slack. So, remember, if he's going to score 15, if you think he's going to score more than 15 fantasy points, you probably have to have him in the optimal.
Yeah, it's kind of a rule of thumb that, 15 to 20, if they can hit that, if these quarterbacks you think they can hit that, which most of them will, it's just smart to just put him in the captain, or I'm sorry, put him in your lineups, both of them.
Does he hasn't had a fucking performance under 15 since
week 11.
So since Indianapolis, or
since week 10. So I think it's safe to say, even if he has a bad game and they lose, you could probably bet on him getting 15, 16 fantasy points on the low end. Now, I know you go down here and you see a couple tens. Look, you can't judge. This is a outlier performance, just like this is an outlier performance sort of a situation. So think of it that way. I think it's just safe to put both of these guys, lock them both in your lineups. The question here is, do we get either one of these in the captain? I'm more likely today to maybe go away from Lamar and Ryan Tannehill in the captain, because I think there's some high upside when it comes to the running backs and the receivers in this game. I'd rather focus on them for a little bit lower ownership. Look, your best option at captain, this is not some hot take here, Lamar Jackson. That's your best option. If you want to have the highest chances of cashing, go with that. But you have to think, how are you going to be different in the flex? With that price tag at captain, there's only going to be a certain amount of builds that we're comfortable building with him, and having to punt at possibly two positions, or doing a double kicker lineup, or going to a third string tight end. That's what you're going to have to do in order to be slightly different. You don't need to have zero dupes, because look, we want to profit. But at the same time, you have to figure out a way to be slightly different, because if you tie with 200 other people in first place, you're not really going to profit very good. So anything else to add here with the quarterbacks, or do you want to move over to the running backs?
Yeah, let's move over to the running backs.
All right, so let's go to the Baltimore side of things. So like I said, Mark Ingram is inactive, right? They're phasing him out of this team. I don't see him. I don't know what his contract is like, but I'm pretty positive this will be his last year with this team. You got J.K. Dobbins, who's coming on. He's I wouldn't call him elite, but he's becoming one of these guys that you can trust.
Workhorse back.
Workhorse back. That's the word. That's the phrase I'm looking for. And you also have Gus Edwards, who's up there. I mean, this dude has been around for a minute. He's now finally finding his role with this team. I feel very comfortable with Gus Edwards at 4,400. This is, if we had one of these picks that if I had to bet my life on something and saying that Gus Edwards is going to, pay off his salary with his performance, I'd probably say yes, simply because of that 4,400. If he was 7K, no, I'm not. I don't like him. But at that price tag, we see his price has come down recently. He was at 7,200, 6,800, 66, 52. This is the lowest he's been since week 11, right? So I think we really want to take advantage of this. And the fact that Mark Ingram is not active, we're gonna get a couple extra carries for him. I'm totally fine with doing J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards and Lamar Jackson in the same lineup. I think you get real heavy with the rush attack here. And if you think that the Ravens can win this game by 1 or 2 touchdowns and have a lead in the fourth quarter, that's a great game script. So, Ellie, who's your favorite guy here? And talk to me about roster construction. Can you get any of these guys in the captain? Are you considering Justice Hill as a dart throw?
Not interested in Justice Hill. I think everybody knows who my favorite play here is Gus Edwards. I mean, just his ownership is coming in around 16% on some sites, around 20% on others. It doesn't make sense to not try and jam him in there.
Brandon,
hey, man.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Thanks for tuning in.
Yeah, we appreciate you. Look, at 4,400, you're going to need to find somebody who's a decent value play. And I'm building right now because I still have to enter my 20 max. It sucks. Like, it fucking sucks building for this slate just because everybody's priced so weirdly. I'm going to get into some some Edwards captain builds here shortly. And I really feel like that's going to be the way to get there. I get that he's not going to have that high up and that really high ceiling, but we've seen him rush for 100 yards and a touchdown this season. So he gets you something like that in the captain spot, and you're able to get Lamar, JK, Corey Davis, Tannehill, and fucking Derrick Henry or something along those lines. I think you might be in line for some decent money today.
Look, throwing Gus Edwards in the captain buys you a lot in the fact that you can fit all of the chalkiest high upside guys in the flex. You can go both quarterbacks, all the Derrick Henry, AJ Brown, JK, like you can probably get to them and maybe only have to pay down at one spot in the flex. So when it comes to having Gus Edwards in the captain or one of these guys at these lower price tags, you're not necessarily going to need to have him be the highest scoring player on the slate because you're getting all that upside in the flex. As long as you nail that, you should be fine. Anything else to talk about here? I mean, look, it looks like we know that J.K. Dobbins is the number one option. He's going to get the most carries. We get that. He's probably going to get some targets out of the backfield, although this team does not necessarily like throwing to the backs, historically speaking. So if you look at week 16, J.K. Dobbins had 48% of the snaps. Gus Edwards had 54%. The week before, it flopped. J.K. Dobbins had 57. Gus Edwards had 40. When it comes to last week, it's a little bit of a weird game, but it looks like Dobbins at 40%, Gus Edwards at 26%, and Mark Ingram had 23%. So that's why it's a big deal that Mark Ingram's not playing. You're going to get that extra 25% of carries going to these guys. So I think it's safe to say that they're going to probably split carries in this game, or not carries, but split snaps. And if that's the case, how could you not consider Gus Edwards at 4,400? Especially a guy who's going to be utilized on the goal line. If they had to give it to anybody on the goal line, I mean, there's a chance that Lamar Jackson can score a couple, from the 1 or 2 yard line, obviously. But I'm more confident in Gus Edwards getting those carries than anybody else. So let's move over to the other side here. There's not a whole lot to talk about on Tennessee. Derrick Henry at 11.6K. Look, Derrick Henry's the man. We all know that. And we know he absolutely went off. This is his time to shine. It's cold. Everyone's tired. They're hurt. This is where Derrick Henry shines, especially later in this particular game. Even if the dude is not doing well in the first 2 quarters, as the game goes along, he gets better and better as long as with the season as well. So with Derrick Henry at 11.6K, how in the Sam Hill can we avoid him? We've seen him not get there in the past, but I'm not comfortable completely going under the field with him, and he's going to be about 50% owned. So what are your thoughts on, is there any reason to overthink this? Do you just try to get him in every lineup?
I do think you need to think about this a little bit just because he is so expensive. I wouldn't go J.K. Dobbins, Lamar, Gus Edwards, Derrick Henry in one lineup, right? So I wouldn't do a rushing onslaught from Baltimore and then throw in Derrick Henry. I do think that Tannehill, Davis / A.J. Brown, and then Jonnu Smith is also a very viable stack on this slate. And given the salary constraints, it might be a little bit you might have to do that to be able to jam in these guys. You might have to make a decision at some point between Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry, and I'd rather go with Lamar in this particular case, right? I
think the decision is Henry versus J.K. Dobbins at that price tag. I'm more likely to be under the field on J.K. Dobbins simply because I think that Gus Edwards can steal some of those carries from him and get those touchdown opportunities. I'd rather go with Derrick Henry on the other side. Rushi has a potential cash lineup here. I don't know if you can see this, Ellie. What are your thoughts on this? I mean, Ferkster seems a little dangerous to me for cash.
Honestly, I'm getting a shitload of him in my initial build, so I think there's a good chance that you might be able to play him in cash. As long as you got Lamar captain, I think it's something to do. We'll build a cash lineup together because I'm playing cash today too. I don't know, you probably missed it, but I drunk entered a bunch of contests, unfortunately, so I gotta build appropriately this morning.
Yeah.
But
sorry to interrupt you, bro. Go ahead. Continue.
No, you're fine. One more thing on the Derrick Henry thing. First of all, don't play the other two guys, Darrington Evans, Jerry McNichols. That means they're probably each going to have career days, but they're just not worth it at $200. You know the volume's going to go through Derrick Henry. And another thing to keep in mind, right? We saw Lamar Jackson throw for over 350 yards and rush for over 100 yards or something like that the last time these guys met in the playoffs. So don't
playoffs.
I'm not gonna overlook that, right? If that happens again, then Derrick Henry may not be getting some volume late. They may need to go to one of these other guys, or it may be a Ryan Tannehill passing attack. So I do think there's a route in which Derrick Henry doesn't pay off his price tag, but I think it's more likely that he does. So it's just going to be interesting when we get into our lineup builds.
Look, he either goes off or he busts. Like you get a couple 6 point, a couple 10. If Derrick Henry gets you 9 fantasy points, you're not going to cash at that price tag. It's just not going to happen. I'm more likely to think he's gonna have a better game than that, but it's just hard to tell, man. It's just so hard to tell. He could come out and get injured in the first play, considering how this season's going overall with just random high-owned dudes just not getting there. Anything can happen in these playoff games, especially in 2020/2021. Darrington Evans at 200, Jeremy McNichols. I think, me personally, I'm not going to get to any of them. But if you're doing a ton of lineups, I think you can fit them into one or two lineups. They're a straight-up dart throw. No one's going to really give them a shot. If for some reason this team is down, you might see a couple extra snaps from Evans or McNichols. These guys have both scored a touchdown this year. So it's an absolute dart throw. If you're putting them into more than one or two of your lineups, you're probably not going to have a good time. That's just my advice. Let's move over to the wide receivers for the Titans. You got A.J. Brown. There's like a DK Metcalf light. He's a grown ass man. We know what A.J. Brown can do. He's a little bit erratic when it comes to his performances. It's like A.J. Brown goes off and then Corey Davis goes off, and then A.J. Brown. It's hard. This is almost like a DK Metcalf slash. Why am I blanking on his name? I blocked him out of my mind. The other receiver for Seattle. Why the fuck am I blanking on him?
Because they lost to a quarterback with no name who went down. Yeah. Tyler Lockett.
Tyler Lockett, sorry. He was my captain choice too, by the way. Anyways, so can both of these guys go off in the same game? If they can, do we want to consider both of them in the same lineup? You got A.J. Brown at 9,400, Corey Davis at 8,000.
I'm very concerned. Look, they absolutely can go off. Corey Davis has actually had the better season out of the two this year. He's been kind of up and down, hit or miss some weeks, but he had a stretch there where he was absolutely crushing, right? 24, 38, maybe 10, 5, 19. But right, those are pretty solid outputs. The only thing that concerns me for both these guys, I'm not a fan of their matchups. Let's see, you got Marquis. That's not the.
A.J. Brown's being guarded by Marlon Humphrey.
And then Corey Davis by Marcus Peters.
Yeah.
So honestly, I think that's a better matchup for Corey Davis than it is for A.J. Brown. A.J. Brown's a big physical guy, but Marlon Humphrey is he's a stud. So I don't expect him to win that matchup too much. Corey Davis is kind of my guy here. Marcus Peters is more of a finesse corner. He's not as big and physical as Marlon Humphrey is. So I think the matchup kind of favors Corey Davis a little bit better here. Corey Davis, he's underrated because he has A.J. Brown and Derrick Henry, probably two of the tougher guys in the league, right?
Yeah.
But Corey Davis he's not a small guy. He's a fairly big guy. He's fast and he's got massive hands. So I do think that's going to be a little bit more of a difficult matchup for Marcus Peters, but I'll see if I can pull up the rest of the secondary for Baltimore. See if Jimmy Smith is playing, but because they're just really deep.
He is playing. He's active.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, there's just a really deep secondary, so it does pose some questions. But with that said, I do think that's going to impact ownership a slight bit. So you may be able to get a little bit more unique, kind of fading Derrick Henry and taking a couple stabs and stacking Tannehill, Davis, and I don't know, maybe Johnny Smith, and then trying to run it back on the Ravens side. So that's something to keep in mind. It is going to be a little bit more risky because you're facing such a talented secondary. But I definitely think they're in play, especially at a 54 total.
So one thing to consider for me, Corey Davis is a better captain option because he's so boom or bust. He either gets there or he doesn't. So if he does get there, having him in the captain is more valuable than getting 10 points out of him in the flex. If he goes off and he gets 38 fantasy points, well, you're going to need him in the captain. So to me, I would rather I'm only going to consider getting a lot of Corey Davis in the captain as opposed to jamming him the flex. When it comes to A.J. Brown, I'm comfortable just getting him wherever I want. Captain as well. I know he's sort of the same way, but look, he can still I feel like he can get you a 20 fantasy point game with 10 receptions, 100 yards or whatever, and he doesn't have to score a touchdown. He's not so touchdown reliant. Any interest in Khalif Raymond and Cameron Batson? I'm going to just go out on a limb and say no. They're another one of these $200 guys that you probably want to, if you have time, put them in a group. All these $200, all these $400 guys, put them in a group, max them at one. set their max exposure to like 5% in your crunches, and maybe if you get one random dude that pops into your lineup, you should be okay with it. All right, let's move over to the other side. So the interesting thing here is Willie Snead is active. Now, I don't know what that means. I don't know if he is going to be getting his typical snaps here. If he was inactive, it would make things a lot easier to figure this out. But Willie Snead is the kind of guy that can ruin the slate for everyone. He's the kind of guy that can randomly get you 2 touchdowns and 5 receptions and completely screw everyone over, especially considering that he was questionable. His ownership is going to be super low. He's probably going to be under 20%, maybe hovering around 10%. So look, Willie Snead's 5,200. Marquis Brown is 8,800. Miles Boykin gets it at 4,800. I'm not really considering him now that Willie Snead is playing. You got Des Bryant at 3,600 and Devin Duvernay at 800, who's a total dart throw. I don't think I'm considering any of these guys below Snead anymore, considering that Snead is active now. So what are your thoughts on all these guys? Who's your favorite? And can Marquise Brown get you there in the captain? Are you considering him the flex? Like, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, man, I don't know. This is tough. I don't understand how this ownership projection is working out, though, because it doesn't make sense to me that you're going to have 30% exposure to Marquise Brown. It's really hard to build with some of these guys. So I guess maybe that's why. Hey, real quick, not to get too sidetracked, who are you showing for the kicker on Tennessee?
All right, so it's going to be Gostowski. So that's something I'm glad you mentioned that. So from what I'm seeing, it looks like Gostowski is the kicker for Tennessee. He was on the COVID list. Sam Sloman, a rookie kicker, filled in for Gostowski when he was on the COVID list, but now he is not. I don't see him playing.
Yeah, they just updated RotoGrinder, so I wanted to double check.
Yeah, so just so you guys know, let's all be clear here. Stephen Gostowski is the projected starting kicker, because look, I think you're going to have to get to a lot of these guys. I think they're going to be pretty popular. So don't go putting in Sam Sloman. Exit him out of your player pool. Make sure you're getting Gostowski, not Sloman. So I'm glad you brought that up, because I was a little confused too. And if you guys see anything on Twitter, if you guys hear anything about this kicker situation, please hit us up in the chat. Let us know. We're doing this live show. We're trying to keep track of news, but it's a little bit hard. So we appreciate your guys' help.
So what are we back to the wide receivers for Baltimore?
Yeah. So look, Snead, Boykin, Bryant, Duvernay. Who's your favorite?
Fuck.
Mark Andrews. Favorite's not the word.
Yeah. Mark Andrews. Look, I think Marquise Brown's fine, right? 8,800, he is a little bit pricey for me. But given 30% ownership, we obviously know the upside that he has. I think he might be an interesting captain play as well. I don't know how much I'm going to get to him in the flex. Just the way that building's working out, I'm probably going to have a little bit more exposure to Willie Snead or Miles Boykin. I'm not excited about it, but we do know Willie Snead can get those random-ass fucking touchdowns in the red zone. I don't know why you're throwing to a 5'3" wide receiver in the red zone, but it tends to work for them. So I guess you got to run with it. I think Des Bryant is kind. I love that quiet laugh. There's no fucking reason for him to sound like a goddamn robot. But I think Des Bryant might be an interesting play. He's priced way the fuck up to 3,600, which is kind of freaky to me.
2011.
Yeah, you'd think Tony Romo was still active or something, right? I'm not a fan of his price tag, but at the end of the day, you're gonna have to play somebody under 5K that you're uncomfortable with, or you're just gonna jam kickers into every lineup. And I as much as I think I'm gonna have to do that on this slate, just so that I'm not too overly exposed to these guys, I am gonna have a couple stabs at Des Bryant, Boykin, and Snead. Devin Duvernay, I think you can do a one-off with him. I don't know how much volume he's going to get, especially with Willie Snead being back and Des Bryant catching a touchdown pass. So who knows?
I don't think you need to get there. I mean, to me, one of these guys is going to have a touchdown.
Yeah.
It's going to happen. You're going to have to find which guy is going to get the touchdown or the 8 receptions for 110 yards. It's going to happen. I just know it. And that's what scares me is you're going to have to fit one of these guys in. I'm just not comfortable doing it. I know that it's probably going to happen, but I don't want to because I feel like Mark Andrews is a better option than any of these guys. Marquis Brown, we all know that he's boom or bust. And I know that lately he's been coming on a little bit more, but he's so big play dependent. He is literally like the biggest GPP play you can possibly think about. Just his existence is GPP because he's either getting you 0 or he's getting you fucking 35 fantasy points. It's really difficult to figure out here. Any last thoughts with these guys? If you had to rank them, did you say you liked Boykin the most, or did you say Snead the most?
No, I think it's Marquise Brown, Willie Snead, Des Bryant, Miles Boykin, and then Devin. The only reason is Miles Boykin is the same person as Willie Snead, so I don't think you give him as much of a boost with Willie Snead coming back. They're going to play the same role. So again, the other thing is he could end up snagging one of those ridiculous end zone targets. Just because he's playing that Miles Boykin role. So I think that might be viable. And here's another thing to keep in mind. The Tennessee defense is really bad at defending the pass. So you do have an opportunity to get some high upside plays here. And look, I mean, Snead is the guy if you're looking at this outside of Marquise Brown, right? I mean, who's Marquise Brown going to get all day? Malcolm Butler? Is he still on the fucking Titans?
Yes, he is. It's actually going to be Adoree Jackson.
Oh, so speed on speed. That's interesting.
He's got the Marquise Brown has the second best matchup according to matchup rating, which doesn't mean a whole lot because they're not going to. I don't think Adoree Jackson is specifically going to be on Marquise Brown every single play. I mean, it's possible, but it looks like Corey Davis is getting the best matchup rating against Marcus Peters. But you're not. I don't think you could put too much weight on that, you know.
Bro, Roto Grinders has Miles Boykin being covered by Malcolm Butler. Why the fuck would Malcolm Butler cover Miles Boykin? That seems like such a waste of a talent. Anyways, I'm not whoever what is it, Mike Rabel? I don't know, one of the random running or linebackers that coaches.
So Raph, Snead. Look, I hate Snead, but I think you're going to have to consider possibly getting him in some lineups. I'm not confident in any of these guys. But that's why you know, if sometimes you just got to play like 20 lineups and spread it around. You know, if I was doing one lineup today, none of these guys are going to make my lineup, to be honest.
So what are you showing for? So you have Boykin at 13 and Snead at 15.
Yeah,
I've got Boykin at 25 and Snead at 15. So for me, that's not even a question. I don't think I'll go Boykin. I'd prefer Snead, just given the leverage.
Snead's only $400 more, and he has a higher upside. He's gonna get those targets. I don't think that you need to go down to Boykin. Although if Boykin scores 2 touchdowns, it wouldn't surprise me. So that's just how confident we are. We don't know what the fuck's gonna happen with these guys. I don't think anybody does, because if you do, you're gonna win a lot of money. Let's move over to the tight ends here. We got Mark Andrews at 7,200. That's a really good price for him, by the way. Then you got Eric Tomlinson. I'm not really considering him, although at $200, you put him in that pool of, you know, $200, $400 guys and mix them in if you can. He's the backup tight end, and at $200, if he gets one red zone target, it's kind of worth a shot. Mark Andrews at 7,200. How do you not love Mark Andrews at 7,200 here? I know that he hasn't been doing well lately, but look, if he gets you 13, 17 fantasy points, it's not a ceiling performance for him, but I still think he can make the optimal at 13 fantasy points at that price tag. Don't you think?
Yeah. Honestly, I think he's a great captain choice today. It's going to be difficult kind of getting that 7,200 tag in the regular builds. Yeah. It's tight today from a salary perspective. So I definitely think he's in play, and I think he needs to be prioritized as one of the top pass catching options from Baltimore. But again, I don't think that's shocking to anybody here. And what do we have him at? 30%. See, this is ridiculous. Hello. Look, I'd rather go less expensive Mark Andrews than Hollywood Brown.
100%.
Yeah, if I have to choose between the two, I'm going to tend to go towards Mark Andrews. Mark Andrews is Lamar's safety blanket, right? He likes to get – that's how he gets in a rhythm. That's the guy he goes to when he's in trouble. And Mark Andrews doesn't let him down. Here's another thing. You want to talk about narrative? And no, nobody brought that up, but I do. I want to talk about narrative. So, look, What happened last year in the playoff game, right? Mark Andrews tipped a pass that he should have caught.
Yes.
And that was the end of the game, essentially. From that point on, Lamar Jackson was chasing points. So what I really think that this is kind of a redemption opportunity for Mark Andrews. I think he's going to come out pissed off. And yeah, right there, that loss to Tennessee, right?
Yep. Yeah.
Yep.
Is that it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's the Pro Bowl. Is that the Pro Bowl?
I guess.
Why the fuck would they show that? Yeah, Tennessee lost. Yeah, he had 7 fantasy points. Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, literally he is the reason why they lost that game. I don't give a shit what anybody else says. Lamar balled out, and they wouldn't have been playing catch up if they didn't tip that ball. They were driving down the field. So I think this is a really good opportunity for Mark Andrews to come out and have his kind of revenge game. He got embarrassed and he cost his team pretty much a Super Bowl berth, right? So
yeah.
Well, I guess not, because they would have had to play the Chiefs. Probably would have got fucked up. But look, I think Mark Andrews is a great play. If you can get to him, you put him in as many lineups as you can. I like him more than Hollywood Brown. Eric Tomlinson, I don't want to touch.
Yeah,
no, that's it.
Well, it's worth mentioning some of these fringe guys because if you're trying to get deep into these tournaments, this is where you can get the edge. But I'm not considering going heavy on any of these $200 guys in this particular slate. I might sprinkle 1 or 2 of them in. If I had to choose one pass catcher from Baltimore, obviously I'm picking Mark Andrews. I'm high on the running backs. I'm high on the I want to get 3-3 builds in. So probably I might have some 4-2 Baltimore stacks, but most of my roster positions are going to be taken up by Lamar. They're going to be taken up by Gus Edwards, J.K. Dobbins potentially. So I don't have a lot of room for some of these random ass dudes on this team, like Boykin or Snead. I'd rather just go with Mark Andrews. So we've got in the chat here, Jake. I'm guessing this is for the Sunday slate. Ellie, any I don't know what the pricing is for the full day slate, so it's hard to tell. But if you had to just blindly guess, would you go with Corey Davis over Landry?
I would lean towards ownership projections. I think Corey Davis is going to be slightly chalkier on the full slate. And look, bro, Juju's just given the fucking Browns poster board material, bulletin board material. I really think the Browns have a pretty decent shot at winning this game.
Yeah.
And Landry, he had COVID for a week and then missed another week. I think he's going to be fresh and ready to play. Is this his first time in the playoffs?
Probably.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, this has to be his first time in the playoffs. So I go Landry, but just don't fight me. I'm not doing much main slate today.
Yeah, not much main slate. We are breaking down that game tonight. We have 3 total shows today. We have 2 more after this, each showdown slate. So join us for that. Let's try to finish this off here. We've got about 30 minutes to lock. So we'll get into our fades, our captain choices. We'll build lineups together. You guys can send us, information on the chat if you want to see certain builds. So let's finish strong with the tight ends here for the Titans. We got Jonnu Smith at 6,200. We got Anthony Firkser at 1,400. Jeff Swaim 600. Mecole Pruitt 200. I think you have to prioritize Jonnu Smith. Don't get too cute with Firkser, Swaim, or Pruitt. There's always a chance that one of these guys will score a touchdown when it comes to Firkser, Swaim, Pruitt. Look, if you're comfortable sprinkling them in, absolutely. But to me, I'd rather just stick with Jonnu Smith. I think his upside is there. There's a path that he can absolutely fail. We've seen it recently. He had a great start to the year, and then he's fallen off lately. So his ownership's going to be low. But if I had to choose anybody here, I'd go with Jonnu Smith, even at that price tag. So what are your thoughts overall on all these guys? Don't you have to at least consider talking about Firkser, Swaim, and Pruitt?
I don't know about Swaim and Pruitt. I think you need to talk about Firkser, Anthony. You need to talk about fucking Anthony. I know you guys are going to build cash soon. Got a question. Both Henry and Tannehill. Honestly, I think you're going to have to go. I think your cash score is Lamar, Henry, Tannehill. That means you're probably going to be playing Firkser too, unless you can jam in both the kickers, which I think is definitely viable for a cash game build.
Yeah, the kickers in cash for sure. worth
it. And Rishi, keep working with it, because when we get to the build where maybe you can give us a heads up before I start trying to fucking build a cash build that isn't going to work, right? So let us know if that build's even viable before we get there, I guess.
Yeah.
So Johnny Smith, I think he's a great play at 6,200. He's priced up, so I think that's going to impact his ownership. I mean, look, you got 20% there. What do I have for tight end? I have Johnny Smith at about 27%. So again, I think that he's viable.
He's going to get lost in the mix. He's going to get lost in the mix of that price tag.
I actually end up with a decent amount of him, and I'm not upset about it. And it's just because he's priced enough that you're not paying too far up. But there's really not much value unless you're willing to take that stab on Ferkser. And I will on a couple lineups that I have Lamar or Derrick Henry a captain. But other than that, I don't know if I'm going to get that deep into it.
Yeah, it won't work with both kickers. Yeah, that's fine. Just fit one of the kickers in.
Yeah, and I don't know if you need Gus Edwards in cash necessarily. He is more of a GPP play.
Yeah, I agree. He can easily. He has a really low floor.
Yeah,
I just don't.
He could come out and get 2 points, right? And that's not what we're looking for. I think you want to lean both kickers, and then even Ferkser, if that's the only guy you can get, he's probably going to get at least 2 catches. So it's definitely something to look at.
All right. So anything else to add here before we move on to kickers and defense?
No. I was going to say I don't have anything else to say.
Like I said, guys, I would consider Ferkser, Swain, Pruitt. If I had to rank them, I'd go Ferkser, Pruitt. I'm probably not even going to look at Swain, although these guys all have red zone touchdown opportunity. But look, Ferkser needs a couple catches and a touchdown in order for him to really. I mean, look, he's 1,400, but I don't think you can get 6 points from him. I think you're going to need a little bit more out of him. And that's why I'm more like, I'd rather go somewhere else, a different
He had 7 targets in week 13, 5 in week 11. And other than that, he's pretty much had 2 or 1. So look, it's scary. And that's why I'm scared of playing him.
Yeah, agreed. He's not a great option, but you should consider him. It depends on your risk tolerance. So kickers, like I said, Gostowski is the kicker. Do not go putting Sam Sloman in unless something weird happens that we missed, but I'm pretty sure that Gostowski is active off the COVID list. Sam Sloman's not going to play. And watch, Sam Sloman gets fucking 9 field goals today. That's going to, of course, that's how it's always going to happen for us. But go with, Gostowski is not projecting as well as Justin Tucker. Who's your favorite guy here? Justin Tucker's at 3,800, so he's priced up a little bit more than we've seen over. Like yesterday, we were seeing kickers at 36 and 3,400. Is that really that big of a deal? That extra $200 for Tucker?
No, I mean he should probably be priced close to what a defense is priced at, right? I mean, dude, he can go out and kick a fucking 68-yard field goal, and that's 6 points. So, I think he's fine, and for a lack of value, I think he's 17% ownership. That might be a little egregious here. Yeah.
Tennessee win. Chaz, what's up, man? FanDuel Showdown. Tennessee wins. Totally viable. I like that. Let's look at defense here before we get into our fades. Thanks for sticking with us, guys. We appreciate it. Throw us a like real quick if you don't mind. Helps us out a lot. Ravens 3,200, Titans 2,800. It's a 54 total. Look, I know that both of these teams can potentially get a interception for a touchdown, or DuVernay can get a punt return for a touchdown. I just would rather go somewhere else. They're not projecting well. They're each getting around 15% ownership. If I just fade the Ravens and Titans defenses, I'm already getting a little bit of edge. I feel like these people here are just paying the rake for us, don't you think?
Yeah, I'm not touching either one of these. Sure, one could end up with a pick 6, but I mean, at a 422 point total, they're each going to have like negative points when it comes to stopping the offenses. So I'm just not interested in it. And when we get into builds here, dude, I do have an interesting captain that I want to try that I don't think we've done on the show. So
I love it. Teasing it. All right,
I guess we did it last night. Sorry.
Let's get on to our fade here.
What's your name? Tony! Fuck you, Tony!
That's a nice way to transition into kickers and defense, our fade of the night here. I think you have to consider some kickers, but the kickers are going to be in my opinion, they're going to be over-owned. because, like I say every time, they're projecting out well. These are median projections. So a guy at 3,600 projected for 9 fantasy points, he's going to end up in the your optimized builds more often than not. If you crunch out 1,000 lineups, they're going to end up in a ton of lineups. So you have to actively avoid some of these kickers. And if you can avoid the kickers on the right slate, you get a huge edge. To me, I think there's going to be more touchdowns involved in this game than there are field goals. I hope I'm right about that. I know sometimes you need to work in the kickers. I'm usually a little bit under. I usually get like 15% on each kicker, maybe 10%. But I don't like the kickers today, especially in a high total game. Ellie, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, man, like as this show has kind of progressed, I think you can kind of take the K away from mine. I want to focus on fading, the defense and special teams. The kickers are interesting.
Yeah.
Did you play the defense special teams yesterday? So Ryan Suckup, did he actually finish in the Optimal last night?
I don't know. I had a miniature stroke once.
Yeah, the Rojo shit kind of fucked everything up. I kind of just started drinking heavily from that point on.
Me too. I was rage cooking and I was just pissed, man.
Yeah, bro. I was playing Call of Duty. Like I just got the fuck out of there. Look, so the kickers are going to be a little bit more viable than I want. And so I'm going to do my best to kind of fade them. But I think that there's a point in which you're going to be forced to put in a certain amount of kickers to build appropriately today. So as much as I kind of do want to fade them, because, Steven Gostkowski, he's like, I'm pretty sure he's as old as Adam Vinatieri now. Obviously, that's not how age works. But still, I mean, the dude's fucking old, right? He's been struggling as of late.
Yeah.
But
you can miss like 17 field goals. Like we've seen it happen
at the beginning of the season, dude. He missed
5-yarder. Or he can. There was that point in the beginning of the season where he missed like 4 or 5 field goals in that one game, and I was like, this dude's career is over.
Yeah, is he fucking Dan Bailey? Like, I mean,
and we talked about this yesterday, dude. Nowadays with analytics, these teams are going for it on 4th down more than ever. There's a lot of opportunity where they'll miss out on 2 or 3 field goal attempts in this game because the coaches want to go for it on 4th and 2 from the 35-yard line. And typically speaking, in years past, they have more opportunity to get those long kicks. I'm not comfortable guessing how many opportunities these kickers are going to get. I'd rather just pay up $800 and get Gus Edwards in every one of my lineups for tournaments. You know what I mean?
That's pretty much where I'm at. I think the issue that we're going to run into when we start building is where the fuck do we pay down? So, we'll see how it works out. But, this is also kind of a precursor into that one-off captain play. I do think we do have a couple interesting builds with a potentially kicker captain. So we'll see how that plays out.
All right, let's get into our captain choice. This is our Crown Their Ass segment, our favorite captain on Draftkings.
Now, if you want to crown them, then crown their ass.
Ellie, talk to me. I got to let my dog out. Go do your thing.
Cool. Mark Andrews, I really don't know what y'all expect me to say here. I think he's in a pretty good matchup, and I kind of went off on him a little bit on the tight end side, right? This is his opportunity to kind of make up for a shitty fucking performance that cost his team in playoff game last season. I may be a little bit more hard on him than pretty much anybody in the world is, but hopefully he takes some ownership over the fact that if he doesn't tip that easily catchable pass, they have a chance to beat the Titans that day. So I expect him to come out here with a little bit of an edge. He is one of the better pass catchers on this team. Who does he compete with? Fucking Marquis Brown. Marquis Brown, like they don't have a wide receiver over 5'6" that's actually played a full season in the past year, right? Des Bryant's the only other guy, and he's 47 years old. So look, if Rojo can pull a hammy before fucking a game starts, Des Bryant could get arthritis before the game starts. So these are things that I want to keep in mind, right?
Mark Andrews, like we've seen it happen. The dude gets COVID like 1 minute before kickoff, and he quit.
And then he fails the next COVID test, like the next 4 tests that he takes, like a minute after the game. Like right there, right? I think Mark Andrews is the guy. Again, I don't know if you need to get too crazy with him. Just run a couple lineups with him and captain, and I think you're fine.
Mark Andrews is a safe captain choice, in my opinion. I think he has a decent floor. He has a high ceiling. He's going to get targets. He's going to get red zone opportunities. So even if you're doing some smaller field tournaments, like I think Mark Andrews is a good option. For me personally, AJ Brown is for any larger tournaments. I like his upside. I think he's just going to get lost in the mix here. There's so many good players on this slate. You have to prioritize getting. If you put AJ Brown in the captain, you run it back with Lamar and Tannehill and with some Gus Edwards maybe in the flex, and then you mix it around from there. I think AJ Brown has the chance to be the highest scoring player on the slate, or maybe the second highest behind Lamar, but you're getting him at less than 10% in the captain potentially. So I like his upside. This is definitely a GPP play. Don't go putting AJ Brown in your captain in cash games or some smaller contests. But look, you have to consider his ceiling. And you could do the same with Corey Davis. I think both of these guys are right here. If I had to choose between them, I'd go with AJ Brown. But I think Corey Davis is a great captain choice, like I said, over a flex choice. So anything else to add before we move on to our lineup builds here?
No, I think we're good, man.
All right. Oops, I didn't change the ticker up there. All right, lineups. Let's go to your screen here. Let's start building lineups. Hit us up in the chat if there's a certain captain you want to see or a certain build. If you want to see a Tennessee pass-heavy build, run back with a rush attack, let us know what you guys want to see, and we'll build it here. We'll tell you what we think. We'll also compare it to optimal lineups as well. So this is the optimal with Lamar at captain. This will probably want to be one of the Cameron Batson. No, that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Maybe pare down your player pool. But yeah, Cameron Batson, that's not something we want to do at all. Yeah, get rid of all these fucking Khalif Raymonds, even DuVernay you can leave in, but that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
See what happens when you put Lamar in the captain. You got to punt at some dude who might not even see the field, and that's scary to me. Now you get DuVernay
and Edwards. This still isn't a great optimal.
No, it's not. I mean, you got Henry, Andrews. I think we should hand build this. Like, we're going to get a lot of leverage by just hand building these chalky lineups ourselves instead of relying on the optimizer, I think.
So what if we do this? I mean, if we're building
from scratch, dude, get rid of everybody.
So for cash, honestly, all right, let's just start with running fucking this dude, captain. So who do we want to go in next?
Let's talk about the run game for either team. I think with Lamar Jackson, you want to pair him with running here. Yeah, Batson's going to get a touchdown now. Watch. It's going to happen, dude. It's going to happen. Gostowski is 5K. Tucker is 9,500 on whoa. Are you kidding me on FanDuel? Dude, Gostowski all day then. That's insane. Do you see that, Ellie? Gostowski on FanDuel is 5K and Tucker's 9,500. I've never seen a big gap like that between the two kickers. That's crazy.
Yeah, I'll pull it up in a second. Yeah, that's not good. I think it's just because they were expecting Sam Sloman to start.
So this? Yeah, exactly. So is this a cash lineup build? Because we talked about maybe potentially not having Edwards in cash. Like, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, let's see what this gives us right now. So I think this is a pretty solid cash core. I honestly kind of want to see what we can get with. You gotta update this shit every time they fuck with the player pool.
Yeah.
All right. So Steven
We got Henry and Tannehill. We got. I don't think we don't need to go both kickers, dude. Right? I don't go both kickers, dude.
I don't think so, but I do want to show you guys this because it did. See, look, to Tyson's point here, 2,800. What does that give us? Titans defense or Anthony Ferkser? Right, so it's not necessarily worth running Steven Gostkowski and Justin Tucker.
Jackson's asking us, would you play both quarterbacks? Absolutely.
Yeah, 100%.
100% Lamar. Consider him in the captain. And if you're not comfortable, if you want to pivot off of Tannehill for tournaments, you can do that. But I think you just got to get to both quarterbacks.
I mean, look, if you're punting for cash, I guess this may not be terrible. What does that give us? 5,800.
I don't like it, dude.
Yeah, I don't either.
Just put fucking what's his bucket in there. Just put Edwards. Just put Edwards in.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to retract my statement earlier about Edwards maybe not being a good cash play because I think he might be. He's showing up in the optimals when you crunch. Gus Edwards good with Lamar. Absolutely, Jackson. Depends on what you're going for, what your builds are looking like. You want your lineup to tell sort of a story, but look, Gus Edwards with Lamar Jackson, I personally love that because you're going to get all those goal line attempts. I mean, obviously, J.K. Dobbins has a chance of getting a rushing attempt at the goal line, but I like Gus Edwards. I think they prefer putting Gus Edwards in there for goal line opportunities. Ellie, are you entering lineups? Is that what's happening?
Yeah, I'm entering this one. And I was trying to build with a different captain, maybe like Derrick Henry. But essentially, you get the exact same lineup. You're just leaving more salary on the table. So honestly, I think this is my cash lineup as of right now. I know Ferkser is scary. But look, if
Jackson, Corey Davis. Sorry, Ellie, my bad. Corey Davis is a GPP option for sure. I like him more in the captain than I do at flex. Brandon's asking, do we trust Des Bryant? Absolutely not. But I think you're going to have to sprinkle in, like we were saying earlier in the breakdown for the wide receivers, I think you're going to have to try to figure out those Baltimore wide receivers in order to be really profitable today. And if you're ballsy enough to play Des Bryant, it could pay off. Or he could get a 0 and you can just close your laptop and move on to the next slate. It's just hard. I don't trust him, but you're going to have to figure out which guy is going to score a touchdown.
Yeah, I mean, look at the ownership. It's so deflated across the board that I think you're going to have to determine one of these guys. I wouldn't play multiple of these, right? I would play one wide receiver from Baltimore if you're playing a wide receiver in your lineups, right?
I would max it at one. Yeah, exactly.
And then alternate from there. But the pricing isn't that great. 5,200, you can come over here to 7,200 Mark Andrews. I know that's a pretty significant pay up, but it is something to look at.
So, Ellie, let's do a Lamar captain. Let's do an onslaught of rushing attacks. Like one way to get different is to negatively correlate and do a handcuff a little bit here. You want to go J.K. Dobbins. You want to go Gus Edwards, all in the same lineup. This is a little bit of a riskier play, but I'd rather do this in a GPP than punt on Ferkser. You know, like I trust these guys way more. Ryan Tannehill. Now we're gonna have to get a little bit different here when it comes to we might have to punt at one position, but yeah, Jonnu Smith and then run it back with $1,000 dude. Who's in that $1,000 range?
Oh,
so Jackson, I'm assuming. So Jackson, I'm assuming you're doing the Sunday slate. We're mainly talking showdown here, but if I had to choose, I'd go Anthony Miller over Willie Snead. Like that's my opinion.
Yeah. Hey, what's his name? The other fucking guy, Anthony Miller's brother on Darnell Mooney. He may not play today, so that gives up a massive boost to Anthony Miller.
Yeah, Anthony Miller gets a boost for sure. All right, so we got Dobbins, Edwards, Tannehill.
This is rough.
Yeah, this is going to be a rough build.
3,800 give us. That's just another kicker. This isn't a terrible cash lineup, to be honest with you.
Actually, this is not bad. Yeah, not bad at all. You're capturing all the rushing. You have the number one rushing team in the NFL. They're going to run the ball a shitload of times. They're going to get over 250 yards rushing, potentially.
Almost all the offense outside of fucking Derrick Henry, and then
Jackson. So Mooney's out. Yeah, then Anthony Miller all day, in my opinion. And watch. Snead gets 3 fucking touchdowns today.
Yeah,
I just don't trust him. I don't trust Snead. I'd rather go with Anthony Miller. So what if you said F Tannehill and put in AJ Brown or if you erase the kickers and just see if we can have a more spread out exposure here.
on Brown.
Yeah. Mark Andrews captain. Yeah, we're gonna do that next. We've got about 10 minutes here, so let's do one Mark Andrews captain here. Actually, I'm gonna enter this lineup in my single entry. This is a nice single entry lineup. So Dobbins, Gus Edwards,
What does that give us?
AJ Brown, Jonnu Smith. 2,000, you can get Ferkser, you can get DuVernay, Swain. Yeah, that's. Can you go lower than Jonnu? Is there anybody that we're comfortable with lower? Maybe we do one. Maybe we just do one kicker in this lineup.
4,800. I still don't know if that gives us enough to feel comfortable with.
Rushi, what we built Actually, your build it was looking nice. We actually ended up with Ferkster. It's a little risky, but I'd say Ferkster. You know, didn't we end up with Ferkster in that cash build that Rushi threw out there?
Yeah, we did. It was the same build that he was talking. I'm pretty sure.
Jackson, I'd go Sneed over Boykin. Boykin gets Sneed. Sneed is that number 2 guy, the number 2 option. I don't like Boykin, and he's only $400 or like $600 cheaper. I'd rather go Sneed.
Here you go. Here's an onslaught that's interesting.
So Gostowski. Oh, interesting. Corey Davis. Okay. Janu. You know what? I'm gonna go Ferkster and Janu with AJ Brown in my single entry.
Is that viable? Let's do it.
Instead of AJ Brown.
I mean,
Ferkster and Janu. I like that. I know it's risky, but it's a single entry with Lamar at captain, so we're gonna have to get in. You know, we're gonna have to get creative with it. So Ellie, let's do a let's do our captain choices. So let's go with not Gus Edwards, but Mark Andrews. We've got about 9 minutes to lock. So Jackson, I'm not playing any defense today. I'm not on a 54 total. There is an absolute chance of one of these teams getting a defensive touchdown, obviously, but I'd rather just go with Gus Edwards at like maybe $800 more. I'd rather just move up to Gus Edwards. I feel way more comfortable with him scoring a touchdown than any of the defenses scoring. But look, you have to consider both of these defenses are pretty dynamic, and yeah, there is an opportunity for them to score. I personally am not going to play them. Favorite defense on the Sunday slate? Sorry, Jackson, I didn't look into the pricing for the overall Sunday slate. We were just looking at Showdown. Ellie, off the top of your head, is there a defense that you like for today?
It's all going to be tight. Look, again, I don't think that the Browns are a terrible play. It's very high risk because obviously the Steelers defense can go off, or offense can go off. But again, that narrative, bulletin board material. Steelers
are probably a pretty safe play, considering. We just don't know how they're going to handle this. So Mark Andrew at captain. We've got about 8 minutes to lock. This is a nice build, dude.
Yeah, I like this. This is I've entered this lineup actually.
Can we get away from Sneed and go anywhere else?
Yeah. What are you thinking?
Well, let's go Gus Edwards in this lineup.
I mean, that's viable too. So let's throw in Gus. And then, I mean, honestly, we can 7,400. What does that give us? Shit. No. We already have Mark Andrews.
Really. Get away from Tucker and see what you can do here. See if you can pay down at one position and then pay up. Like get a Corey Davis or a Marquis Brown or something like that. Can you find anybody for 3,200?
No, I mean
defense, Ferkser. See that it's that gap.
Yeah, but this is interesting.
Yeah, we'll do a AJ Brown captain here in 1 second. Let's get a Mark Andrews lineup that we really like, and then we'll move on. I mean, this is pretty interesting here, right?
Yeah, I like this a lot. The Tannehill fade kind of helps you out a little bit here.
So let's
Ferkser's risky, but again, this isn't terrible for GPP.
Yeah.
Who are we looking at?
Go to AJ Brown captain. So put both quarterbacks in this one. Let's do a Tennessee pass on slot.
Yeah, Jesus Christ.
Titans defense. See, the building's a little bit tough. So let's do a Titans pass on slot. So let's put in like Jonnu Smith or Corey Davis in here as well. And then we're going to fade in this particular lineup. We're fading Henry. Let's run it back with Gus Edwards potentially, or someone, a running back from. We can't afford him. Gus Edwards, yeah, do that, and then it leaves us 1,100. Is that another Ferkster lineup?
No, he's 1,400.
Okay. You're gonna have to punt. This is tough, man. This is not easy today. DuVernay, I don't feel comfortable with that, but this is gonna be tough. This is why I think Tannehill's ownership is gonna be a little bit lower than it should be, because I think people are gonna want to get more Derrick Henry, and it's just gonna be difficult.
So this again, I mean, you can run it this way and still end up on Anthony Firkser. I mean, that's the only issue. So
I know we're getting a lot of Firkser guys, but like I'm not comfortable getting a ton of Firkser. But look, he just seems to fit. He seems to fit, and it's hard to get away from him today.
So what if we do this? What does this give us? And this is what I was talking about when I said I don't necessarily want to play kickers, but what the fuck
You're gonna have
do?
to. We're gonna have to, man.
I mean, this is probably dumb as shit, but this isn't terrible. AJ Brown, Jonnu Smith, Steven Gostkowski, Des Bryant, Ryan Tannehill, Lamar Jackson. Well, that's a 4-2. What if we go to Tucker? And throw anything out if you have it. That's not going to work.
Damn, man. This is tough. This is really tough. AJ Brown's tough to build with that captain. What about here? Look, find a lineup that you like here, and then let's build one more with Gus Edwards at captain, because I think if we pay down, we might be able to get a lineup we're comfortable with.
AJ Brown, Gus Edwards, Willie Snead. Oh, Jesus Christ. No.
The pricing is real tight on the slate. And there's
AJ
a big Brown between the kickers and everyone else.
Gus Edwards, Snead, Gostkowski, Tannehill, Lamar Jackson. I don't hate this.
I don't hate it, but I don't love it, to be honest.
I don't like kickers.
Let's do a Gus Edwards captain as we get closer to lock here. Let's see if we can get one more cool lineup. I'm actually going to be ready to enter this one, to be honest.
Yeah, I ended up with a pretty decent amount of Gus Edwards captain.
So Gus Edwards, and let's try one. Let's try one with the handcuff and Lamar.
Optimal's 103. Jesus, dude. I don't know how they're getting to 103. All right. So you want Dobbins?
Dobbins and Lamar.
It means what? We need Tannehill and Jonnu Smith give us. What do we have to do now? 4,800.
Passing on slot on the other side, potentially.
4,800. Do we like this? Edwards, Dobbins, Jackson, Tannehill, Jonnu, Miles Boykin, or can we go up to
That sucks.
Corey Davis and 3K? Hey, look, Anthony Firkser.
Of course. Firkser's the key, man. If he can actually go off, I think you can really do well. You know? But it's scary. Corey Davis and Firkser. What about what about we got 2 minutes to lock. Get rid of Tannehill and get rid of Davis, get rid of Firkser, and go with AJ Brown. Or fucking hey, dude, I love it. Oh, I love that. All right, I'm totally doing this, dude. I'm totally doing this. Let's see what else we can get.
I know. Don't hate me, but if we're running, I know the kickers are going to be involved today. Here you go, bro. Here you go.
Let me see.
This is risky, but I like this.
Jackson. This is my favorite tournament lineup. I love this. It's risky as hell, but I don't give a shit. John.
What's Tucker priced at? Actually, I'm not going to do that so that you can see it. Do it this way.
Gostkowski. Whoo! All right.
This is ballsy. Ballsy.
Of course it's ballsy. But like this is the kind of lineup I love. I love seeing this lineup. These are the kind of lineups you see win tournaments all the fucking time.
Do we have any other suggestions, or can I throw in Justin Tucker at captain and see what we get?
Do your thing. You got 1 minute.
Okay. I actually did this. I submitted to Justin Tucker captain, and then
I don't hate
Steven Gostkowski captain.
I don't hate it.
So if you're doing this, you're doing this. Let's see. Honestly, I like Edwards still. Leaves us a little bit. Can we get to Corey Davis? And that leaves us 8,300. I mean, look.
There you go. Enter it. You got. Oh, and that's lock. That's the
I
winning.
actually think I did enter this.
Watch, that's the fucking winning lineup, and we missed out on it. That would suck. All right, so stick with us for a minute, guys. We're going to look at some ownership. We're going to talk about our predictions here. We're going to sort of talk about what we're going to what we're excited to see, what we're not excited to see, and then we're going to move on. I got to start building the show for the next game, and then we'll do it all again after that. So let's look at ownership. Let's see when this actually locks. It's always so scary to have the app open when it's still in that purgatory of locking and not locking. If you edit it, they'll void your entries, actually.
This is actually what I submitted.
With Snead?
Yeah, I got Tannehill, Henry. Huh, I like that one. All right, let's see if they fucking give us this shit now.
Let's see here.
All right. Gostkowski, 18% ownership, 0.5% at captain. Lamar, 75, 22% captain. Derek Henry, 75 and 22 at captain.
Wow, that's interesting.
Tannehill, 44 and 8.5. Jonnu, 23% owned, 1% captain. Justin Tucker's 40% and 2.8% captain.
Anything
Edwards, 31. Willie Snead is 17% owned.
Interesting.
It's very interesting.
Gus Edwards is what, 20?
Edwards. Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, we appreciate you joining us. Ellie, give us your prediction here. Are we going to hit the over? And can Tennessee pull this one out, or do you think Lamar is going to will this team into a victory? I think they're trending up. The Ravens are. I think they can make a run to the Super Bowl. We've seen teams like this get hot at the right time and make a Super Bowl run. Can they win this game, Baltimore Ravens, today?
Yeah, I think they do too. I like I said, I think this is a redemption game for this team against their poor performance last season. So I think this is an over. I think this game is going to be some bullshit like 31-35 or wow, that was terrible. 37-31.
Watch, it's going to be watch 35-31. Hey, it sounds pretty good to me. I think it's going to be I think it's going to hit the over. I think Baltimore can win this one, but I think it's going to be really close. It's going to come down to the end of the game, which we need to see some good games lately. I'm really sort of looking forward to finally seeing some good games. Roth Productions, appreciate it. Good luck. Let us know how you guys do. Tune in for the second show. We're going live at what freaking time are we going live? Let me pull it up here. We're going live at 12:45 Pacific, 3:45 Eastern. That's Bears versus Saints. So thanks a lot, guys. We appreciate your support. Throw us a like on your way out, and we'll see you in a few hours. All right, see you guys later.